Let's talk about the installation of bearings. These are the main bearings. Main caps sit here, torque down. That's the main bearings for the crank to rotate on. Cannot iterate enough that these surfaces must be clean. These oil holes, check every one of them, they must be clean. These caps only go in one direction. They must stay in order the way the block was lined home, and they must be oriented the right direction. Now, if you forget or get turned around about the orientation, which direction is right, you can see these little, and I still got to clean these up a little bit, but you see the little lock tabs on them where the bearing goes in. Corresponding, they always go lock to lock. This lock tab will be here, the one on top will be here, but you always go lock to lock. If your lock is over here, you turn around backwards. Always correct order, correct orientation. It's critical. This application, these are our bearings of choice, or at least the bearings we're going to use here. Normally we use king bearings, but they're impossible to find now. But these Molly bearings are really good bearings. I would not put them in here if they wasn't. These are really, really good bearings, and they really will hold up. Clean, clean, correct order, correct orientation. Very important. All right, we've cleaned the surfaces. Main bearings are in. Rear seal is sitting in there. Make sure you offset it to one side so that the joints don't meet at the same place the joints on the cap does. Prevent oil leaks. Then you got to put some slop on your bearings there. I prefer this stuff. This is a really good assembly lube. It's Bearing Guard by Clevite. It's really, really good assembly lube, and I like it. And you just put a little bit on each one of these, rub it in there, and you're ready to set the crank in. After the assembly lube goes on, crank goes in. Now we're going to put the main caps, the main bearings in the main caps. With the same procedure, I'm going to put a little of the lube on there, rub it around, doop, 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 the main caps back through there. I like to set them all on there and finger tighten them. Rotate it a little bit, make sure there's no weirdness going on, and then I torque everything down. It's just the way I do it. Just like I mentioned before, there's little locks right there, and these bearings have little tabs on one end. Right there, they set into these locks right here. That's what holds the bearing into place. The lock on the other one will be on this side, so that the flat part of the cap sits against the lock, flat part of the block sits against that lock, so the bearing shouldn't be able to move. Now we just put assembly lube on it. So once I get it all covered in assembly lube, the cap goes on. Now, it doesn't take a ton of assembly lube. I put really more than I need on there, so if you put more than this on there, you're really just putting too much on at that point. Not that it's really going to hurt anything, in my opinion. It's not going to hurt anything, but I tend to put a little extra on anyway. So if you put more than this, you're just pretty much wasting your assembly lube at that point. So let's go ahead and get this on. As I said earlier, I just stick caps on here and finger tighten them. I just run them down until they touch. That's all I'm doing. But after I do every one, I do turn it just a little bit. I want to see if there's any kind of resistance or anything. If it's smooth, it should really turn really smoothly. So I just want to make sure it is. And if anything's binding or anything, you'll know it early on. So that's my process. Now I'm going to finish putting the rest of these caps on, and then we'll get back. Real quick, you are going to have one main bearing that is different from the rest. It has these, it wraps around instead of just sits in the middle. This is your thrust bearing. Your thrust bearing controls the crank movement out and back, the thrust thrust of the crank out and back this way. And there's a number that you want, and we'll go into that a little later, but this is the bearing that controls that, and it sits right in the middle of your caps on an FE. Again, I'm gonna reiterate as I'm doing this, I don't have the back one on yet, but each cap I put on, I just take my hand, just loosely, I don't even wrap my hand around it, just loosely with my hand on it like this, and I do rotate this engine just a little bit out and back. It should turn freely, it should be smooth. There should be no roughness feeling, no gritty feeling, however you want to describe it. It should be a smooth, easy turn. If at any point in time, and I do this at each cap for this particular reason, if at any point in time I stick a cap on and all of a sudden I'm getting something that feels jerky and it doesn't feel like it's turning smooth, then I know there's an issue there. I need to take that back and look at it and see what's going on. Always, 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 after each cap, just come in here and turn it just a little bit. Now, there's other people that will say you don't necessarily need to do that, but I like doing that. The truth of the matter, the reason I like doing that is because I want to know there's an issue right away. I don't want to wait till I'm done and then try to turn it and go, okay, there's an issue. Now I got to take it all back apart to figure out which one's the issue. If you'll do it as you go, you will know. Now, this is one of those things, it doesn't hurt you to be the guy to overthink it. Overthink it, work on it, tweak it, play with it. You want to be able to touch every aspect as you go. You want to be able to look at everything. You want measurements. You want to put your due diligence into this because you want it to last and you want it to perform at its best. So now all the caps are in. Engine still rotates smoothly. Now, keep in mind when I say smoothly or it still rotates freely or whatever, yes, it will get, let's call it resistance, a hair more resistance on it when they're tight versus when it's just laying there. But it should still be easy to turn. It should still turn freely, and you shouldn't feel any, like you're having a strain to turn it, like there's any stress anywhere. It's smooth. It doesn't take much effort to turn. I mean, I can put one finger in here and just kind of rotate it around, and I'm not really having to work hard to rotate this motor. This motor turns real free. Crank is in. Now we're just going to torque it all down, and the crank will be in, and we can start assembling this. All right, she's torqued down, and you can take your pinky finger and put on the ratchet and rotate this motor all around. Now, I have seen some people where they'll take the ratchet and lay it like that and it'll rotate the motor. I run a little tighter tolerance on my bearings, and I do it for a reason, but it's not much. Like I said, you can take your pinky and just barely put any pressure on your pinky finger and this thing just falls. So it's not much on it. So when I said I was going to do a video series, I said I wanted to keep them short to keep people's interest. This is, we'll call this installing the main bearings and crank. So we'll make this part 2. The next thing I'm actually going to do is assemble the ring packages. I'm going to file fit my rings, get my rods and piston, get my pistons on the rods, get the rings on them, get them loaded up and everything, and lay them out on the table in the order they go in, and have those ready to go into the motor. That'll be the next thing that I do. So hopefully y'all are enjoying this. Hopefully you'll stay around and watch the series. Until next time, God bless y'all.